Happy Monday, Broncos country. Welcome back to another episode of Let's Talk Broncos. Guys, how are you?
I'm doing fantastic. We had a little retreat in Zach's West Cliff house, which is fantastic. It's the best ever. I loved it. I got a retreat. I got away from everything for a little bit. So thank you to Zach for allowing us down there yet again. Thank you for that. That was awesome. Yeah, I feel re-energized. I feel ready for the podcast. How are you guys feeling?
I'm great. I've also got recharged and I'm ready to do a mailbag. We haven't done a mailbag since I think before free agency started. So it'll be good to get back on these topics and see what our listeners want to hear about.
Yes,
as Zach already said, we've decided to make Monday a mailbag episode, and we asked all of you to tune in and ask questions so we can respond to them. If you'd like to do so live, you got to go on over to Facebook or to YouTube. That's search Mile High Sports. You'll find us at the top of the page. We are live right now. So if you want to join the discussion, please feel free to do so. Other than that, news dropped just before we went live a couple minutes ago that the Denver Broncos are looking at what it looks like white helmets. How do you guys feel about that?
Breathe. It's okay. So one, I won't mind it if we got the white unis to go with it. It needs to be all white thing, right? The only white helmet I can think of that looks good with the colored uniforms is kind of the Bills. The Bills have a cool white helmet that go with their stuff, but the white on top of orange on orange is crazy because it has to be a color rush. Apparently, it's the worst ever. I'm mad at it. I don't like it unless it's the white out. And also, I have another take. If the Broncos go the white on top of orange and orange and orange, I don't want a jersey anymore. I don't want a new uniform. Keep your uniform. You ruin your trust. I no longer have trust in the Broncos and the creation of a new jersey. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, I fully agree with you. I don't have much else to add on that. I think it's, I don't know. It looks hideous. We have the edits of it. It looks horrible. Shoot, doesn't work with that overlay. It looks dreadful. The white with the color rush. I think if you go in all white out, it will be fun, but otherwise, it doesn't work.
This is disgusting. This is nasty work. Whoever was the creator of the white on top of orange on orange, I appreciate you putting it out there, but I also don't. And also, I think this came from at Polly 2 L's. Let's see.
I have it here. Hold on one second.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, credit to at Polly 2 L's G29. He is also the designer for those cool buff hoodies that I got. I got one with the Deion Sanders. So yeah, but he's the creditor of this.
The edit itself is not bad. I want to point out Frankie Abbott's in the chat over on YouTube. If you want to have some hot takes like Frankie, please jump over there. I have the hottest take of not caring much about an alternate helmet that'll be worn once a season, and he follows that up with because I hate joy. So
I agree with Frankie. It doesn't really matter. None of the uniform choices really matter. But yeah, they'll look ugly one week, and I'd rather them not look ugly. Like none of it really matters. How far do we want to move this thing? Until the heat death of the universe, what matters in the grand scheme of everything? I don't know. I think it matters. I don't want them to look ugly.
This is terrible.
I obviously don't want it to look bad, but I think it's interesting that there's just an assumption that it's going to be the old school D logo. There's no guarantees there. What, Joey?
Also, it needs to be said, the uniforms the new ones Nike puts out are really bad usually. It needs to be said. Someone needs to talk about it. They're all terrible pretty much. And that's why, while everyone wants the new uniforms, because I also do, I would like the new jerseys for the Broncos. I would like them to get the new jerseys. It has to be said, though, they could be worse, right? Like if the Broncos pop out with the orange and blue two-tone Jags jerseys, we're not going to want the new ones anymore. So I don't know. I'm a little skeptical still. I'm a little skeptical of these new ones that they're going to put out.
I think no matter what happens, there's going to be somewhat of a pushback on this because I think there is they're going to come out with something new, and it's going to be new. It's going to be change. And I think there's going to be a strong reaction either way. I don't know how I feel about all white. Now, if done correctly, I think, Joey, you were saying the University of Colorado has done an all white out jersey that looks pretty good, especially against the field up in Boulder. I just worry about it kind of losing its touch. But if it's only worn twice, a little change isn't bad. I think what's interesting here is that the team president is obviously making some moves to kind of elicit some more excitement for Broncos country, because we talk a lot about uniforms. Those official changes won't come until later, but they're taking prime opportunity and moving on with new helmets. So I think you're catering directly to your fan base. And I think that's important to note. So whatever they do there, I think is going to turn out well for all of Broncos country. I'm about to sneeze on camera. That's okay. But we'll move on to the questions that were submitted here by our viewers. We'll get to your fan questions as well when we can. LGDJ Boogie, I like that name, wants to know, and I'll read it here after I drop this scanner. Knowing now how much the Broncos are spending on wide receiver in relation to production and ROI, how are you keeping that core together? Or do you agree it's time to get rid of some of those contracts? And if so, who do you move on from?
Yeah, I think one more year until I'm willing to move off him, because I think there's plenty of excuses to go around for everybody. I don't think there's a plain out and simple, this guy's just not good anymore. I don't think that, especially with the players with the big contracts, right? Being Courtland Sutton and Tim Patrick. Courtland Sutton was still, I thought he was the second best wide receiver on the team this last year. Tim Patrick, when healthy, I think that he could be the best receiver on this team. That's possible. It's just not the right time to trade either of them, in my opinion. If you're just looking to trade a wide receiver, I'd say KJ Hamler is the best, most expendable player to the Broncos. It would be interesting to know even if anyone would trade for him at this point. If there were, I would imagine it'd be a really low draft pick with how many injuries he had at this point. But for the most part, why not just see what he has? I would just see what all these guys have until I'm trying to trade one of them at this point.
Yeah, I could see maybe a trade for, if we're talking about like who you trade, KJ, maybe Kendall Hinton, just because I think Kendall Hinton is like a good all-around receiver that could make sense for a lot of teams. Now, what are they going to give up for that? But I do think the veteran wide receiver market is so shallow, and Kendall Hinton's contract has crazy amounts of surplus value in it, that maybe a team that needs a better number 4 or a better number 3, like maybe a team that's really desperate for help, like the Patriots or something, gives up just a 6th round pick to have that guy. Like, which doesn't sound like a lot, but Amari Cooper went for a 6th round pick. Like, the wide receiver market is kind of weird out there. You've seen a lot of variance in what guys are traded for. So I wouldn't turn my nose up at that. As for Judy and Sutton, I agree with Joey for the most part. I'd like to keep them, though I do think there are circumstances where I'd be fine with trading either. If you get a 2nd round pick for, or better, for Courtland Sutton, I think you leap at that. You can get a cost-controlled wide receiver that's pretty talented in that region of the draft that can pretty quickly contribute. I think we've seen that happen more and more with the recent rookie receiver classes. And even though this one isn't great, I think that region in the late 1st to the mid-2nd is potentially a bit of a sweet spot there. I would be okay with that. I think that's a good ROI. And then Judy, only if the Broncos currently believe, like if Sean Payton and George Payton don't see a long-term future with Jerry Jeudy because of character issues, they just don't think this is the type of guy they want to give a big money extension to, then I would be okay trading him for a 1st. Otherwise, looking at how crazy the wide receiver market has blown up over these past 2 years and how hard it is to find veteran receiving talent out there right now, it would be hard for me to trade or to cut bait with Jerry Jeudy, who's coming off a really special season and is cost controlled for the next few.
What do you guys think is an appropriate get in return, a return on investment in trading Courtland Sutton? Or if you compare what he was able to do in 2022 as an above average wide receiver, do you think that's a fair assumption that a 2nd round is 1, going to be a fair trade, or 2, you're going to be able to get back equal or greater value?
Yeah, I don't think it's realistic to get a 2nd round pick. That's my thing. I would trade him for a second. no team's going to offer a second. That's the issue. You're not getting the value. The reason why I say plain out and simple, don't trade him, is because you're not going to get the value there. Of course, every player has a price tag that you would trade, guys, that you would trade almost anybody if the right trade came about. The issue is that all these teams have an evaluation on them, and then no team's going to trade a second at this point for a Courtland Sutton, I don't think. And I would put Jerry Jeudy high. I would make him a first round and a little even more than that. You would have to be a certain place in the first round for me to want to trade Jerry Jeudy. The Broncos aren't in a place where these players are expendable and you're willing to give a player or give a team a player that you're going to take a little less on value just because you're getting value. You know what I mean? That pick offers more value than the player. That's the weight you have to do there. And the Broncos just aren't going to get it. So if I were going to do it, though, I would say a second round pick for Courtland Sutton. I just highly doubt you're going to get that, Bree.
Coop over on YouTube says, yeah, if you're moving off of court and expecting to get a replacement in this draft, I want to know who exactly you're taking there before we decide to get rid of him. Yeah. LOL. I don't think the LOL is necessary. I totally agree with you, Coop. I think it gets a little bit speculative and a little bit risky when you start making moves like that. I don't love it. Zach, go ahead.
Yeah, I want to make sure I have the name right. Perry out of Wake Forest is a guy that comes to mind who I've seen regularly projected in that second round area, who I think does some, I mean, he's got a different body type, but does some of those ball winning things. And I agree with everything Joey said. You're probably not getting the value that makes it worth it. And that's why you're probably not trading them. But if teams went up to there, I'd be willing to do it. And I don't think it's out of the question. Just because Sutton's a quality receiver. And I could see post-draft, if you're one of these teams that's looking to compete right now and you miss out on the run on wide receivers, that's when I think the Broncos would trade either of these guys. I think we're talking about draft day or post-draft where some team gets caught empty-handed and they want to upgrade that situation. But whoever signs Courtland Sutton is only going to be paying him $6 million against the cap this upcoming season, which wait, I want to make sure that's right. $6 million. The Broncos are going to eat half of his salary for this season, which puts it like right in line with Kendrick Bourne's contract. And I think, Sutton, even though he's come back from the pack or come back to the pack rather, and his play has dipped a little, I think that's surplus value. And I could see a team trading for it. Though a second round pick, I agree with Joey, is probably still a little risk. A.T. Perry's a good one. Xavier Hutchinson, Cedric Tillman. I love all those names Frankie just threw up.
Moving on to another position here. Kathy asked over on Twitter, are they really going to start Lloyd Cushenberry at center? Or do you think they're going for a center prospect early in the draft? Obviously, the Broncos made official on paper today with center Kyle Fuller. Guys, do you think they add in the draft at that position specifically?
I think that they're going to attempt to. I think what Sean Payton did in saying that, yeah, we think that Lloyd Cushenberry is a starting center, was saying that it's the center that I like, and that this possibility of him being there is slim. So might have to roll with Lloyd Cushenberry. We're not just going to take any center and put him there. And it's already risky. Lloyd Cushenberry might not be the best starting center in the NFL. This rookie guy might not be the best backup center in the NFL. It's just possible. That's definitely a thing. And the Broncos have to prepare for Lloyd Cushenberry to start because of that. They might not be in the area where their center they like in the draft is available. And even if they do get that guy that they like, he might not be ready to play. He might be worse than Lloyd Cushenberry. That is something that is absolutely possible, especially as a rookie. So I do think the Broncos will go out there and look for one, but I don't think they're going to have, really, really need one and just draft any center that's available. They're just not in the point in the draft where they can do that, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's a position where I'd much rather target the veteran market, frankly. Like you look at the guys that have been drafted. I won't go last year because last year's a little weird with Juergens sitting behind Jason Kelce, but like Linderbaum, played a lot and struggled a bit. Luke Fortner played a lot and, had some up and downs. Ups and down. Landon Dickerson was drafted as a center. Like, I think Creed Humphrey is a bit of an outlying case where he came in and was great immediately. You look at Cesar Ruiz being a first-round pick and struggling. Matt Hennessy in the same third round as Lloyd Cushenberry struggling for a long time. Garrett Bradbury struggled for a long time coming out. Billy Price never found his footing. Mason Cole never really found his footing. Ethan Pocic, Pat Elflein, like these, even the highly drafted centers. I think it's such a mental position. I think, and we look at the bust rate at quarterback, at off-ball linebacker, for example, and I think a commonality between like scouting these positions is that NFL evaluators struggle to like figure out those intangible aspects that lead to success at those positions. And it's why I was really hoping the Broncos would sign a veteran center. I think there's still some options out there they could pursue. Because it's hard, like Joey said, it's hard for me to see them drafting a guy in the third round and him immediately coming in and unseating Lloyd Cushenberry. That said, I think it's very likely they do just that because Mike Klis released his first mock draft today. It was a unique style. It was just like 3 predictions for the Broncos' 2 third-round picks. All 3 of his predictions for the Broncos' first third-round pick were mid-round centers. So I think there's a very good chance they head that direction.
Obviously, if you're even going after a center prospect early in the draft, you're going to need to see them cut their teeth hard and fast, and that's not necessarily something you want to throw a center into exactly their first year in the league. It's a positional group that takes a little bit of time in order to build assignments there. You obviously saw Luke Wattenberg struggle a little bit last season. You definitely don't want to throw a rookie center in, so I think Lloyd Cushenberry starting there isn't the worst thing to happen. If an improvement is out there in the veteran sphere, then I'd like to see it happen. Joey, I saw a little shake of the head. What you got there on the Lloyd Cushenberry front?
Yeah, no, Bree, I think you kind of just hit the nail on the head. I was just agreeing with you, like, big time. I just think that it's Lloyd Cushenberry is going to – I think we put too much faith into rookies sometimes. Like, I would rather have these guys go and develop and try to become the best version of themselves rather than the Broncos drafting a third rounder and needing that guy to start. That idea is it's just not realistic. You're not going to go in the third round and say, we need this guy to start, or your draft process is wrong. And that's not how you should be looking at it.
If you draft the guy and you go, hey, we expect this guy to start in 2024, I think that's fine. And you still go, we need to upgrade on Lloyd Cushenberry. He can get us through this season, and that's fine. I'm fine with them still taking a center in the third round. I just don't think, to Joey's point, it should be with the thought process that he is starting for us week 1. If that ends up happening, it's gravy.
D-Bronx says, I'm 68% certain they're drafting their starting center in the third. Could that be a call to the number they would wear?
Yeah.
I never am quite sure whether or not he's screwing with me or not. Thank you, D-Bronx, for always being in the chat. Guys, I'm going to move on to the next question here, and it's about Shelby Harris. Jay Pozo asks over on Twitter, should we maybe sign Harris after trading him to Seattle? Ever since news broke that Shelby Harris was available once again as the Seattle Seahawks decided to move on, I said, why the heck not? A tremendous talent that I think got his use in Seattle. Maybe there's a little bit of tension there. Maybe he doesn't want to return to the state of Colorado or the Denver Broncos. That's not my decision to make. What I do think, though, is that for the right price, I don't see why not. Zach, I know you're raring to answer this one. Go for it.
Oh man, I'm okay with it. I don't know. They need defensive line help at this point. And what's the saying? Any port in the storm. I kind of feel that way right now about the Broncos defensive line room. I do think we've seen the best of Shelby Harris, but he's been out there on the free agent market for a while. Most of the guys that are still hanging out there right now, I think OBJ is the lone exception to this, though I easily could be forgetting someone. Most people still out on the free agent market right now aren't getting the money they wanted to get, they expected to get. I'd assume the market value around Shelby Harris is pretty low right now, and the Broncos need that depth. I think they can sign him, put him in that Deshaun Williams role, and like at this point in his career, could he be an upgrade on Deshaun Williams? I think so.
Yeah, I've been pretty vocal about how I think the Broncos are building a foundation this year. The idea totally isn't to win right now. And the Broncos interior defensive line room furthers my point at the moment. If they added a Shelby Harris, it would kind of, maybe I'd be wrong. I would come on here and say, you know what, I might be wrong. But at the moment, I'm sitting there thinking that they're going to try to give Henningsen and Awazarike snaps because they're trying to figure out who they have in these young players. Awazarike and Henningsen played a little last year, sparingly, of course. I would like Shelby. Now, here's the other thing. I think that's kind of what happens. On the other hand, I would like Shelby because I don't have a ton of faith in Awazarike or Matt Henningsen at this point right now. Not to say that they can't shock me and be good players. But as we stand, if the Broncos are trying to win, you would like to have more of a veteran and proven option as your backup interior defensive lineman. So I guess it just depends on what the Broncos are trying to accomplish this year. That's something I would like to throw in there because they haven't added a vet like Shelby Harris yet. This entire offseason they haven't. And this would be the one exception.
Bringing back the best hands in the league probably isn't the worst case scenario for the Denver Broncos. It'll be interesting to see how that shakes out. Shelby, hit us up. We'd love to have you on the show.
Yes.
AJ asks over on Twitter, if Denver were to move up in the draft, which spot would make the most sense without losing a ton of capital? Joey, that's a you question first.
Yeah, I would just think without losing a ton of capital, that makes it a little difficult. It's hard. I don't think the Broncos really are in a position where I would want to trade up. If I'm just being straight honest with everybody on here. Just not, the Broncos need to add depth to this team in the draft. Everyone says it's kind of a crapshoot. You want as much picks as possible, especially in the Broncos scenario where you're already picking later. Just keep adding picks. I wouldn't really want to trade out. Now, if let's say that there was a player I loved and he was there, and I have to do it because I'm so in love with this player, right? In George Payton's brain, I'll put myself. I would say the late second round or something like that, mid-late second round would be the spot to get him. I think a lot of the players in this draft, once you meet that mid-first round area, it's not a very top-heavy class. So I think you're going to get a lot of the same quality of players from the mid-first round all the way to the second round. So I would say that mid-second round if you're looking for as much value as you're going to get in trading up.
Yeah, I think generally, I really fully agree with everything Joey said. Generally speaking, you shouldn't be looking to trade up. You just, even if the Broncos weren't in this position, even if they had 10 picks, it is saying, I am so much smarter than everyone else that, yes, this guy's falling down the board and they don't see the value that I do. And I'm willing to give up multiple darts just for this one dart because my evaluation skills are so good. I'm right on this one dart. And in the NFL, the best evaluators are 50-50. So I just don't think it's good to sacrifice starts generally. That said, Joey's right. If you have a guy with like a first round grade that close to it, a top 40 grade that you just absolutely love, and he falls to like 58, and the Broncos are sitting at 67. Okay. Do a little swap up to get there. Like Howie Roseman is this analytically minded GM. And what I just talked about not trading up is analytical thinking, but Howie Roseman is the genius GM, the top class GM he is, because he's constantly trying to just like leech every bit of value out of every transaction he can make. You look at the Devonta Smith deal where the Eagles trade back, acquire a bunch of picks, and then use a tiny fraction of that to trade back up because they knew Devonta Smith was their guy. I don't have the draft numbers in front of me, but I think they felt there was something like there was a big talent drop off after pick 11 or pick 12, something like that. And so they felt we have to make sure we get one of those top 12 guys. So they traded out of that top 12, traded back in to secure their guy, and they look like geniuses now. I think stuff like that could make a lot of sense for the Broncos. And even though they're low on picks, I hope George Payton doesn't just go, ooh, we got to be stingy. We can't trade up at all, because don't take these options off the table. Always be looking for value.
Isn't that what George Payton was often touted for, though? His ability to work in valuable situations like that, where you didn't have to chase, but you could still walk away with value? Or has that been overblown and overcomplexed?
To me, I would actually go the opposite. What I think Payton has been lauded for more is drafting, and he's a guy who loves having his draft picks. And so that's what fears me in this situation. Like, I understand that he covets his draft picks, but I hope he doesn't covet them a little too much here.
I'm kind of on George Payton's side in this, truthfully. I don't think the Broncos are in position too. Go ahead, Bree.
No, no, no. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I was just making sure that my framing was correct when I asked that. I'm yeah, obviously drafting being important there. Are you saying that he may make moves to go backwards to facilitate more picks and not less?
I think that's a possibility. I mean, I do think that's a possibility. It's not something I would do, especially out of that third round pick. You want that pick. I think later in the draft, though, more darts. So those guys are kind of just like diamonds in the rough anyways. Like, I don't know, like you're really drafting low and those players rarely work out. You might as well just accumulate darts. I just don't. The Broncos are in a place right now where they have plenty of they're top heavy team right now. They need depth. They need to fill their roster with guys that can play. And in the draft, it is like Zach, you said it, the best guys are 50-50. It's hard for me to have any amount of, as much faith as I would need to say the Broncos should trade up. I just don't have as much faith in anybody to do
But
that.
doesn't that mean you would also want to, like, if you only have $5, you're taking your $5 and doing some coupon shopping and some bargain bins to make sure you get what you need instead of going and splurging all the $5 in the same place? I mean, just in my head, it's like at the end of the day, as long as you're getting a return that valuates the same, maybe as somebody with more picks or maybe somebody with like a little bit of a different approach. If you're still winning that and coming home with more groceries, I don't see anything wrong with it.
The Broncos have 5 picks right now, and they could easily make a trade between now and the draft. Not just the wide receiver ones. It could be a starter. It could be a lower end depth player and pick up a 7th round pick and go into this draft with 6 picks. At which point they would be like one below average. Like, yes, they don't have those premium picks. Yes, there's something to be said about like having picks and stockpiling them. But I don't think the Broncos are so impoverished in terms of draft capital that they have to remove an entire half of the equation from their thought process. Like, yes, I don't think they should trade up. And we're saying the same thing here, Joey. I don't think they should trade up. Neither of us think they probably should. Can we imagine circumstances where it makes sense to? Absolutely. And I don't think they should remove just go, no, there's no way we're trading up. They should consider all possibilities.
No, and I agree with that, Zach. I just wanted to add on that until George Payton, I'm going to be skeptical of any GM trading up until they prove to me that they are Howie Roseman. that just is what it's going to be. Like I just don't have enough faith until they show me that I should, pretty much.
I'm sorry. I got distracted.
The timer went off on our mailbag, by the way, for whatever it's worth, Bree.
I know. I was trying to make it seem like we had our shit together here on Let's Talk Broncos, but we'll just go ahead and move forward as planned. I wanted to get to these last couple of questions. I think the running back one is important, and I have some time here. Barrett asks from Twitter, is the Broncos running back depth good enough? I'm going to go with, I don't feel great about it, specifically without a full disclosure timeline on Javonte Williams' return, and specifically knowing that each of the current running backs and no official word on Latavius Murray makes me feel like the depth doesn't actually exist. What say you, gentlemen?
You're right.
Yeah, go ahead, Zach.
It doesn't exist. There isn't depth on this roster. Javonte Williams, I just heard a podcast. It was Bill Barnwell, actually, and they were hyping up Javonte Williams as this great fantasy option for 2023. And if he's healthy, I fully agree with them, but it almost made me sad. I'm like, I really hope this comes to fruition. If Javonte Williams is Javonte Williams, I think they're pretty okay. I would like to see them add maybe like a late round pick or an undrafted free agent. And then you have, I think, a pretty good 3-man rotation. Javonte Williams, if healthy, is a good starter. Samaje Perine is a really good number 2. And I think you could draft a guy to be your number 3/special teamer and eventually maybe take over for one of those 2 guys. That said, Javonte Williams isn't healthy, and we don't know when he's going to be Javonte Williams again, if ever. And with that consideration in mind, I don't think the running back depth is good enough. They have enough needs at premium positions, and they have so few premium picks that I hope they don't spend that 3rd round pick on a running back. But if they did, I couldn't really fault them. Like if they just drafted a guy that, could be a immediate impact running back, like, I don't know, Zach Charbonnet, I couldn't fault them. I'd just be like, oh, wow, I guess they really are concerned about Javonte's knee injury, because the depth could be pretty bad. If Javonte's fully Javonte, I think they're in okay shape. A little supplementing would be nice.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with that. I think it kind of depends on how you look at it. I think the Broncos should add to the running back room no matter what. I think it depends how you look at it and where the Broncos are on how you would accomplish that, right? If the Broncos are trying to win this next year, undoubtedly we're going all out, we're trying to win. I would go get another vet running back and still draft a running back probably. Do something like that. I would go in. If we're going to build the smash mouth football team and we're really going to complement Russ and we're going to have this great running game, you go really invest in it. Lower guys, but 2 of them. And then if the Broncos are just attempting to say, we're building the building blocks, we're putting together something for what is to come in the future, draft, like Zach said, a guy in the 4th round and just have him and P. Ryan ready to go immediately. If Javonte's healthy, that's icing on the cake, even more than icing on the cake. That might be the cake while the other 2 guys are the icing. It just I don't know how you play it, but you have to add to it. You have to in some way in both scenarios. Just how much you do depends on how you vision the team right now, I guess.
We saw it last season play out where the scraping to get by at running back was something of a position that the Denver Broncos don't need to be in, specifically as they try to get the best out of Russ this next season. Joey, you hit it out of the park. Zach is saying there is no depth. I think that's the number one concern I see us bringing up the most here on Let's Talk Broncos is the lack of depth in a lot of the positions on the roster, and maybe how that can be addressed here in the remainder of the offseason. It's time for a little LTB mailbag edition lightning round. I already got to the first one there from Joey Richards and how we feel about the potential of white helmets. Way to almost be a soothsayer, Joey, on throwing that out there. Official word obviously dropping today. We covered it at the start of the show. If you'd like to reflect on that, you can go ahead and rewatch the start of this program. We wanted to get it out of the way since it was topical news. Also, Justin Baldwin, if you could be any character in the Mushroom Kingdom, that's the Mario universe, who would you be?
I mean, it depends how serious we're taking this. If we're not taking it very serious, I want to be Yoshi. Man, he's just like a happy dinosaur. He's living his dinosaur life. He doesn't have to get tied up in these mushroom global politics. He just lives his life. Now, if we're being super canonical with it, I don't know who I'd be, because I don't think anyone's got a really good setup here. Maybe Bowser. He's bad, but he doesn't really do anything that horrible. And he's the only one that doesn't get fucked with. He's the one fucking with everyone else. But if you're Yoshi, you just get abandoned by your owner at the first sign of danger. That's the famous thing from the games. He'll use you and throw you off a cliff to jump himself higher. And so in that regard, I wouldn't want to be Yoshi. But if we're not,
Freaky says, sorry, I didn't mean to cut off your monologue.
It was
at this point, it was getting to a point I had to. Frankie said, I'd be Toad. Coop says, how much more serious could we take this question? I don't know, you bunch of nerds. Zach dropped 3 F-bombs in the span of talking about his character. So I think we're pretty serious here at Let's Talk Broncos. I'm going with probably King Boo, just so I can terrorize absolutely everybody involved in this entire endeavor. And that feels just right up my alley.
Good pick.
I'm not running away from the spotlight. I'm going to be the main character. Why not just Mario? I'm going to be Mario. I'm going to be the main guy.
You're going to be a plumber, Joey? You want to live as a plumber?
Plumbers make good money, Zach. Yes, I do.
Way to class shame. Moving on second.
Yeah,
it's nothing about the class. It's just, hey, I would rather be a magical creature than the one guy with a normal blue-collar job in this world.
What about the bullet?
It's hard work. It's hard living.
What about the big, gigantic bullet that takes out Mario at every turn because you never expect it to be coming? If anybody doesn't know, the Let's Talk Broncos crew likes to play a little bit of Mario Kart, so we're a little competitive. Yeah. Most recently, we took on Monopoly. I am your undisputed virtual Monopoly champion.
Joey's the poker champ, though.
Joey is a poker champ. Although I still am not sure that he entirely knows how to play, but that's it.
No, but that's it. The element of surprise. Here's the thing: play poker with me, you have no idea what's coming. It could be anything. I could be doing anything at any given time. There's no strategy. You're playing with a it's not fun. You don't know what's happening. You could win, lose. I could play myself out of it. Anything. It's all a possibility.
I like it. I don't hate it. And also, Mario's pretty fun. So shouts out also to a Mario we know, Mario Vitanzi. I don't know every time that comes up. Just have to shout him out. So thanks to you, good sir. Last one, Nighthawk asks, thoughts on Philip Lindsay signing with the Sea Dragons? Earlier today, I said the Seahawks, and I probably misinformed a bunch of insiders. Just kidding. Nobody cares. Everybody knew it was the XFL Seattle Sea Dragons. I'm super excited to see Philip Lindsay get another shot to show his talents and strengths there up in the Pacific Northwest. I'm hoping that it goes swimmingly, and I hope that he gets another look from the NFL, because being an undrafted free agent is not a lot of fun when it gets to this point, because it's all about what kind of momentum you can find on that free agency track. So best wishes to Philip Lindsay. Zach.
Yeah, shout out to Colton Cooper in the comments. Philip Lindsay from Denver, actually, in case you guys didn't know. But heading to Seattle, I think to the point about the running backs we were talking about earlier, like, I think the Broncos have an offense that's well suited for a running back now, where maybe you don't have to invest a lot in that guy. You can plug a guy in and they can have success with the mauling front that Peyton has built up. In a similar sense, I think the Sea Dragons are a nice landing spot for Philip Lindsay. They have arguably the best offense in the XFL. They're red hot right now. They're probably going to be playing postseason games. That means more snaps. That means more opportunities for Philip Lindsay to spotlight himself and maybe get back into the NFL. I'll be rooting for him.
Philip Lindsay is going to dominate down there. That's what I think. I don't have any reasoning why. I have no analysis on the Sea Dragons. I just know that Philip Lindsay is going to be a good football player in this league. So that's my take.
I think they're the number one XFL team, just from a talent standpoint. So going out and getting Philip Lindsay, I think, just really backs that up. So I'm happy to see it, happy to hear it. And that'll do it for tonight's episode of Let's Talk Broncos Mailbag Edition. If you have more questions that you want to communicate to us, all you got to do is jump on over to our Discord, or you can tweet at us. You can see our handles right there on the screen. Let us know what you think about your Denver Broncos, how we can answer and facilitate those discussions, because that is basically the point of Let's Talk Broncos. We want to talk Broncos with all of you guys. Where can everybody find your wonderful work?
Everybody, please go subscribe to the Let's Talk Broncos YouTube immediately. I'm still working on my video, but it will come. I was working on it tonight as well. I'm just taking my time with it, but I promise you it'll come. I want to make sure everything's perfect. So yeah, keep an eye out for that. It's going to be my best one. But yeah, that's where you can find me. Let's Talk Broncos, YouTube. Please, 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 please subscribe.
I like Colton Cooper in the comments throwing out some good content. Yeah, absolutely. Head over to Let's Talk Broncos YouTube. Support all the great work Joey's doing over there. But also, I have almost finished my rewatch of the show Primal, which is a really great TV show. It has won multiple Emmys, is going to continue to win Emmys. Cal, friend of the show, knows his media stuff. We're hopping on and doing a quick mini show that we've been talking about doing for I think 2 months now, and I've been lazy getting my shit together for it. But we'll have that coming soon. So just, I don't know, all sorts of different new unique content on the Let's Talk Broncos YouTube. Very easy to find. Go over there.
Colton's or Coops. Why do I do that every single time? I am Anchorman. If you put something in front of me, I'm going to read it the exact way, verbatim. Cooper says next show we should craft a Broncos team filled with only Colorado players. It would be chaos. And then I responded, "Who is we?" Just kidding, Coop. We would love to have your introspection there. We'd love to have your discussion. Send us a whole list over there. And thanks for creating content for Let's Talk Broncos. Zach, Joey, myself, follow me over on Twitter, BreeMace303. That's it. You'll find all my stuff over there. I don't have many words to say to that, but we'll be back another time this week. You'll want to check out Frankie's film. Frankie Abbott, been in the chat all night. It's going to be with Joey Richards this Thursday. They'll have a show coming out as well. Maybe live. Maybe recorded?
Yes, live. We will be live for this next one. And we're doing a mock draft for everyone that's interested in those. You're going to want to tune in. We might have some clips going up on there as we're picking these players. I might have one. Frankie might have one. We might discuss each one. We might even put up a poll, see which ones you guys like more. Competition.
Wow,
crazy.
LTB
mock draft extravaganza. Man, that was so sad.
If everyone's going to be coming up with all of this brand new content, drop it in the chat. What do you want to see me talk about? I'm just kidding. We'll see you on the next one. Good night, everybody.